What is going on, guys? This is the Inside Blue Podcast, episode number 55, and today, breaking down the New York Giants loss over the Las Vegas Raiders, 30-6. Giants unable to get anything going offensively against the Raiders team that isn't very good, in my opinion. This is really just, a game against two very bad football teams, and, the Raiders coming into this game had a bunch of new staff guys come in. Antonio Pierce came in, and a new offensive coordinator. But, the Raiders played a really good game against this Giants team, and this Giants offense is, the worst in the league. They can't get anything going, and it's very easy to defend the New York Giants, right? When Jalen Hyatt's on the field, they're probably throwing the ball deep, or they're at least looking downfield as one of their main targets. And, with Jalen Hyatt, that's pretty much, I feel like his only reps are him going downfield. Like, this is a guy, I think, in my opinion, that has a lot of other, good traits to his game, not even just as a deep threat. I think he has very good speed. I think he's a guy that can catch the football really well, and I don't think the Giants are utilizing him very well, and I think the Giants could utilize him a little bit better and, make him not just a deep threat. I think he could be a slot wide receiver, a guy that can even do some run plays. They tried him in the preseason with him. Wasn't too successful, but I think that Jalen Hyatt is more than just a deep threat wide receiver. And this Giants team, they didn't score until the fourth quarter. That was a Tommy DeVito passing touchdown to Wan'Dale Robinson, wide open touchdown. Really good ball by Tommy DeVito. But he did also throw 2 interceptions. And, we brought up Tommy DeVito's name. We didn't bring up the fact that Daniel Jones is probably out for the season, in my opinion, at least. We haven't, we're still awaiting tests, but, there's been reports from multiple sources that it's feared that Daniel Jones has suffered a torn ACL in today's contest, or just a very serious knee injury. And, it sucks. It sucks to see your QB that you just paid $40 million a year over 4 years to get injured, not stay on the field, and when he has, not really perform to the expectations that you would like. And, I stress this a lot, in the offseason, talking about the Giants, what Daniel Jones has to do for this next step, and it's do a lot of things that he didn't do last year. He was in a very easy offense to understand in in that 2022 season, and then Mike Kafka and Brian Daboll throw him a more complex offense, and Daniel Jones isn't able to perform under that offense, and then Daniel Jones gets hurt. He gets the neck injury first against Miami, and then he gets the potential torn ACL against the Las Vegas Raiders. And another thing with Daniel Jones is the fact that Daniel Jones got $40 million is so crazy to me. And at least the Giants have, some options, if they want to cut him or whatever. But we'll get, into those specific details later. Giants drop to 2-7 on the year. They hold the fourth overall pick in the NFL draft. And Tommy DeVito is probably honestly going to start for the rest of the season, barring any injury, because I don't think Tyrod is able to play. The only other option the Giants really have is Matt Barkley from the practice squad. He's really their only other option. I don't see the Giants going out getting anybody in free agency, really, unless somehow both Matt Barkley and Tommy DeVito end up on the injured list, and the Giants just don't have a QB. But regardless, I think Tommy DeVito or Matt Barkley is going to be the QB for the rest of the year. And another thing is, whether it's Matt Barkley playing quarterback or it's Tommy DeVito, I don't really see this Giants team winning, honestly, more than 2 games the rest of the year. Because of how bad this offense is. If you're averaging, honestly, close to 10 points per game now with how this game went, they were averaging 11 points, I think, going into this game, and their opponents were averaging 11.3. It's hard for me to believe that this offense can beat a team like the Packers, who aren't a great football team this year. The Patriots, the Commanders, all 3 of those teams I think should be easy wins, but with this Giants team, they're going to be gutsy wins. And I think I said that a few episodes ago, is that I think just most of these games the Giants are going to win are just gutsy wins. Like, they're not going to blow out a team like what Miami did to the Broncos, or what the Bills did to the Dolphins, right? Or just any team. They're not going to blow out the team, because I think, if I can remember, this team has only put up like over 21 points like once this season. And I think that was against the Arizona Cardinals. This offense is bad. And, I know a lot of Brian Daboll takes a lot of criticism for this, but I think we're forgetting about Mike Kafka. And I think a main point in this game that I was just confused was that extra point, 2-point conversion, not extra point, 2-point conversion. The Giants didn't even have an extra point today. So this 2-point conversion. Now, I don't necessarily hate the play call, because it's kind of a decent play call in this kind of situation. But to have... So the thing to Barkley, that's fine. But then when Barkley dishes it off to Daniel Bellinger, I mean, is Daniel Bellinger really the best guy for that situation? I don't think so. I think you could easily slot in like a guy like Jalen Hyatt, or even, I think, honestly, the most reliable guy you have on that specific play is Darius Slayton. Because if you're going to want Daniel Bellinger throwing the ball, that's a tough task for Daniel Bellinger. I don't think that's something he's very used to. I just don't like... Now, honestly, talking about it, I don't really like the play call. I think there is a lot of other things that this Giants team can do, especially guys like Wanda Robinson, who's quick, Jalen Hyatt, Saquon. You could easily get a 2-point conversion with Saquon, because his run defense for the Raiders was not good, and Saquon had some good running plays. He broke through some holes. I thought Saquon played pretty well today. Offensive line, Evan Neal continues to be bad. I didn't really look at the other guys like JMS or Bredesen or Andrew Thomas. I didn't really look at them. I mainly just look at Neal right now, because he's the main guy I'm watching on this offensive line and seeing if there's any improvement. There's not been any improvement in Evan Neal's game. And that was the big thing coming into year 2 for Evan Neal. And if the Giants do play, have Evan Neal as their right tackle for his year number 3, he needs to put in a lot of work this offseason and play better. Because with what I saw this season, I did not see enough improvement to make me feel confident in Evan Neal going into year number 3. Unless there's something that he's going to just try and show me in these upcoming weeks, whether it's against the Commanders or these other teams. I mean, they have Dallas next week. The Giants have the Dallas Cowboys next week in Dallas, because they played the Giants in MetLife week 1, and that was bad. That was a 40-0 loss, and quite honestly, with how Dallas has played this year, they could easily put up a lot more than 40 points going into this next game. And I also think the Giants could honestly have even more turnovers in that game, because I don't think Tommy DeVito is going to have a chance of getting the ball downfield against that Dallas defense. Micah Parsons is going to line up against Evan Neal all the time, and he's going to absolutely obliterate him. I'm worried for Evan Neal, honestly, in this upcoming week. When Micah Parsons takes on Andrew Thomas can lock down Micah Parsons. Andrew Thomas can lock down some of the best pass rushers in this league. But when it comes to Evan Neal on that other side, you could put a damn third stringer out there, and he's burning Evan Neal. That's how bad Evan Neal has been this year, and he's even struggling. I think in the preseason, it's so bad to see Evan Neal be this bad in year number 2, and it's not a good look for him either. Especially after the comments he's already made this year about the hamburger flippers, and that's all the fans really are, and they shouldn't be criticizing Evan Neal this much. Well, you're playing in New York. And New York fans, whether you're rooting for the Giants or the Jets or the Knicks, any of those New York sports teams, the Yankees, Mets, all of those New York teams, their fans have high expectations, right? They want you to be good. They want you to make the playoffs. They want you to make big splashes. They want you to get the best players. You're going to be held accountable. And if you're making mistakes consistently, trust me, New York fans will get right on you. Right on you. And they already have. They already have on Evan Neal. Evan Neal, we're going to need a lot. He has a long off season ahead of him. And I hope he improves, right? I know a lot of players want to cut him, and, I am sort of on board with that, but his best chance is to really put in the work this offseason and be better and play hard, be better, train hard, and just be. You don't have, you're not gonna. I don't think he's really gonna be, an Andrew Thomas, but on the right side. That's what Giants fans hope for, and that's what was kind of the goal. But Evan Neal has to be better, and we all know that. And it's an offensive line that needs a lot of work. They've had a lot of different combinations, and this Giants team, that's a big spot going into this offseason of what to upgrade. Offensive line is honestly the top of my list. I think my top 3 are number 1 offensive line, number 2 wide receiver 1 in fact, not just another wide receiver, because the Giants can get any wide receiver. And at number 3, I have the third spot I have, sorry about that. The third spot I have for this Giants team to upgrade is at the QB spot. So offensive line, wide receiver 1, and QB. Those are my top 3 that need to be upgraded. And I think if they do upgrade that, so let's get into that now. If they do upgrade the offensive line, whether it's in the draft or it's in the off season, where they get some offensive linemen that are just simply much better than what they're working with, because they have a good chunk of money in this off season to spend. I think it's over $60 million. We're gonna have to spend, right? You're gonna have to spend some money and make some moves, because that's how you're gonna make your team better. And we need this team to get better. And it's also an interesting spot if you want to upgrade the QB spot and the offensive line, because it also matters where you pick. I mean, if you're in the top 3, so for say the Giants season ends today and they pick at number 3. And, well, actually, no, we'll say it like this. Say the Giants pick a number 4. And you pick a number 4, the odds of Caleb Williams dropping to 4 unlikely. And that's why I don't hate trading up to get Caleb Williams. If you think trading up for Caleb Williams is a bad idea, then you're just simply wrong. Caleb Williams is an amazing player. He's an amazing player from USC. Caleb Williams changes his offense tremendously. He 100% reads the field a lot better than Jones. I think he's got better arm talent. He's got better everything than Daniel Jones. And listen, I love Jones, but Jones is just not the guy. Okay, and that happens in franchises. Sometimes you got to move on, right? I mean, back in the day, Blake Bortles was a top pick. Look how he fared out. Now Trevor Lawrence is their guy. You see it all the time. Just some of these top picks especially at the QB spot, they just don't pan out. And I think even if you pick the number 17, I think you might be in this same situation where you were still moving on from Jones. And I mean, to give him a luxury contract like that, it's a gift, honestly, to Daniel Jones. Another thing that I guess has been a positive this season. There has been, too many positives of this year, but a big guy that comes to name on this defense. Not only Deonte Banks, but a big guy that I think has made an even bigger. I think this guy has made a big impact to this defense. Is Kayvon Thibodeaux. This guy in the last 5 games has 7.5 sacks. And that game against the Jets was, I think, his best game of his career. 3 sacks. I think he had a tackle for loss or whatever it was. He was all over the place. He was playing how I want Kayvon Thibodeaux to play. An amazing pass rusher that creates havoc on the QB. And I think he's one of the top leaders in sacks as well. And listen, that definitely, plays a part. I think that helps with, the defensive line creating that opportunity for, Thibodeaux. I think Dexter Lawrence does an amazing job of that and helps Thibodeaux get to the QB. That's great. And, I think another bright spot of this defense has been Micah McFadden. I don't think anyone really saw this guy see this guy just all of a sudden balling out. I think he does a really good job of getting into the opposing backfield, and he gets a lot of tackles for loss as well. I think he had another one today against the Raiders. I think on Josh Jacobs, in fact, or it was somebody that he got a tackle for loss. Just a really good play. And getting back to the future for the New York Giants, right? This team has a bright future. And I know I stated that before, but I think really if they make the right moves and they put the right pieces of the puzzle together, I think Joe Schoen can make this team a playoff contender. Right? You see it with the teams in your own division. Homegrown. Guys at the Eagles and Cowboys draft, the 2 teams I'm talking about. Jason Kelce, drafted there. Jalen Hurts, drafted there. That's their franchise QB. And now, another thing is they've made trades. They traded for A.J. Brown for virtually nothing. They traded for DeAndre Swift for virtually nothing. They got Jalen Carter in the draft, who's been a stud. Okay, they got a bunch of, guys from that Georgia team that are making a big impact. Fletcher Cox, who's been a big name on that defense for many years. Landon Dickerson, all these guys I'm naming, just by drafting well. Now, if this Giants team can do that, draft well, I think they could be a good team. But drafting well, it takes time. You see it all around the league. And I think the Eagles are a great example of that. Back in 2020, this team was 4-11-1. the NFC least, like you called it. A team that just didn't have, really no team in that NFC East was over 500. The Commanders were 7-9. The Cowboys and Giants were tied for 6-10, and the Eagles were 4-11-1. Now I forgot who the Eagles tied to. Actually, I may have had those records wrong, but if they can get talent, if they can get Caleb Williams, if they can get, even if they draft later, if they go and get a guy like Bo Nix later in the draft, or they get a franchise lineman like a Joe Alt, or the guy from Penn State, I can't pronounce his name. Lulu, I think that's his first name, but probably mispronounced that offensive, tackle. If they, later in the draft, they get honestly, I think a big thing for this Giants offense too is getting a solid running back too in the draft. I think a lot, a big name that's floated around is Trey Benson from Florida State. I think Henderson from Ohio State, I liked his game against Rutgers, even though he's kind of a later round pick. And I think that also helps by lessening the workload for Saquon Barkley. Saquon over the years has gotten a lot of time. He had 36 carries the previous week. That was against the Jets. That can't happen. That was the most of his career. But, getting back to Daniel Jones and the contract, they can definitely cut him. The Giants could dump Daniel Jones after 2 seasons if they wanted to. They would have to eat the $18 million in dead money, according to Over the Cap, but they would also save $21.5 million in cap space. And then also PFT corrected its reporting after initially saying Jones's $12 million 2025 salary would be guaranteed in 2024, and that even makes it easier for the Giants to move on after 2 years. So the Giants have backup plans. It's pretty safe to say Daniel Jones has not lived up to the expectations at the number 6 overall pick. Daniel Jones, there were some reports that he played on a torn ACL and then eventually just his knee gave out. Daniel Jones is a pretty tough player, I'll say that. I think Jones is a pretty tough QB. He's a tough player. He wants to be good, he wants to play well, but I think the Giants overall failed him, when it was to Joe Judge, and I think the first year with Brian Daboll was good. With Daniel Jones, I thought, they were really starting to, create something, but this year things didn't go the way that the coaching staff or Daniel Jones wanted it to. A tough year, tough season for Daniel Jones, a tough year for the Giants. But, of course, every week we'll always be breaking down these Giants. It's been a tough year for the Giants fans, and it sucks. I know it sucks, and I know your frustrations. I'm frustrated too. I know I don't scream into the mic, but deep down I'm very frustrated with how this season has played out. I think we predicted the Giants to go 10-7 this year. The prediction just way off. We'll be lucky if we finish with 4 wins, to be honest. 4 or 5 wins maybe at most. But regardless, I appreciate you all for the support. Go follow us on Instagram at the Inside the Boot Podcast. Go follow us on TikTok. And of course, sub to the YouTube channel. All your your follows, likes, comments are much appreciated, but not heavily encouraged. Of course, we're on the road to 100 subs before the end of the year. And as always, hit that notification bell so you know when I upload these podcasts. And also, doesn't hurt to push the notification button on your Instagram/TikTok so you know when I post some mini clips as well. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay safe out there, guys, and go Giants.